Good morning, everybody. My name is Reverend Kit Holmes. I am coming to you from Northwest Michigan, where it's probably a little chillier than it is where you are in Las Vegas. Good morning to you. Thank you, Reverend Laura, for having me as your guest today. Thousands of things can get in our way, can they not? Today, I'm going to be talking about how we can let go of some things, particularly through the practice, a spiritual practice of laughter, bringing more joy and more laughter into our lives. The one thing that, I don't know about you, but I take my spiritual practice very seriously. And I used to take myself really scary, painfully seriously. I don't know if any of you do that, but you probably know what I'm talking about when we realize, and through continued spiritual practice, that a lot of times when we focus on some things like problems and worries and that sort of thing, we get more of them. And of course, if you've been in this teaching for any length of time, you know that what we think about, we bring about. You've probably heard that. What we resist persists. So today, we're going to practice something completely different, completely opposite of that, and walk into letting go, surrendering. That might mean giving up a little bit of control. Yikes. But we're going to do this with humor. We're going to do this with gentleness. That is the heart of the practice, is to not get so tied up in our drive to heal, to let go of things, to grow, to get past all of those things that we say are blocking us from our good. Again, I don't know about you, but I work pretty hard at it. And there's my dog behind me. If you want a little humor for today, that's Taddie popping her head up. So right now, what's going on in the world? As I am recording this, we are just a few days into the Russian invasion of Ukraine. And there's a lot of serious things happening in the world, happening to humanity. We are still on the tail end of this, just coming on 2 years, which kind of blows my mind, of this COVID pandemic. And we're still not out of it. Not to mention all of the things that humanity continues to do to one another. Man's inhumanity to man, and the world can look really dark. So how do we move through not burying our heads in the sand and being blind to the conditions of the world, but is finding a way to balance staying informed and not staying focused on the conditions and the circumstances and the appearances in our lives, because that is the practice. As Ernest Holmes, our founder, says, we practice turning entirely away from the condition. We don't deny that it has happened. We simply don't focus on it. We look for the solutions. Now, this balance that I'm talking about is, the flip side of this is we can swing into, maybe you've heard this term, toxic positivity. Spiritual bypass. It's those places where we just go, no, I can't see it, can't hear it, it's not happening. It's not what I'm talking about at all. It is recognizing that, yes, there is stuff happening, and in that stuff, God is also present. God is also happening, because in our teaching, that is the only thing that really is happening at any given time. So today, I'm going to tell a few jokes, and you can groan, you can leave the room, you can hit the button and not watch this anymore. I don't recommend that. I actually invite you to stay around. I'm going to start with a story about this. There are 3 friends in a spiritual community, in a spiritual center, and they were asked by their spiritual leaders, so when you're in your casket, and your friends and loved ones and community members are coming by to pay their respects, and they're looking in on you, what would you like them to say? And the first gentleman says, well, I would like them to say that I was a wonderful husband, a fine spiritual leader, and a great family man. And the second person says, I would like them to say I was a wonderful teacher and servant of God, and I made a huge difference in people's lives. And the third person said, I'd like them to look and say, hey, he's still moving. Rim shots, whatever. I don't have that. If you have sound effects, you can take that on. So here's the idea. When we look at the physiology of stress and anxiety, and it turns into this really kind of self-perpetuating do loop that we can get into, where the stress and anxiety affects our sleep, it affects our mental, our outlook. When we don't sleep, we get more stressed, we get ill, we take it in, we hold it in the body, and that energy is just getting all jammed up in places, and our shoulders go up around our ears, and we get tense and we get tight. It closes off our throat chakra, closes off our hearts. We can't lean into love when we are just everything tight. And you see the fists. We cannot be open to the good of spirit when we are hanging on so tightly, trying to control things that are beyond our control. So how do we do this? We practice being more lighthearted. Well, I don't know about that. I hear people say all the time, and I've said it to myself, be lighthearted about what? As I said, there's a lot going on in the world, and we can always change our perspective about everything. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. Everything we do is based on a practiced mental habit. And that means that we are always, what I like to say, we are always just one thought away from a different perspective. And that different perspective can change lives. It can change our life. So let's think about that. How do we do this? Practice mental habit, spiritual practice. Science of mind teaching is all about practicing, being a practitioner of these principles, of living into them, of knowing that God is the only thing that is happening. God is the only thing in all, in, through, and in and as us. So we're already way ahead of the game when we lean into that practice of recognizing there is that presence and that power. When we start a spiritual mind treatment, we start with that truth of recognizing that one presence, that one power, right? So here we go. One thing takes it off the plate. It's in and through and as us. And we can tune into it. We can tap into it. We can lean into realizing the truth of we live in a world of infinite possibility. So there are an infinite number of ways that we could change our perspective. We can choose our perspective. A lot of times we will hear people say, and we may even do it ourselves, and I practice being better about catching myself, about saying what I'm feeling when I'm really thinking something. Feeling is the physical sensation. I like to semantics of the language. I like to talk about feelings as the physical sensations, as things like I'm feeling cold, or I'm feeling hungry, or I'm feeling hot. My emotions, on the other hand, are something I can control. And you say, whoa, wait a minute. I'm having this big feeling about something. But the feeling begins with a thought. The feeling originates with a thought with some kind of a judgment around it. We think a thing, there's an emotional response to it. It gets attached to that. It becomes the belief, and that becomes that system in us that says, oh, I'm feeling this thing. My emotion of anger, that's my emotion of anger. I feel it in my body, physically in my solar plexus. Or I feel sadness or grief. I feel the emotion of that. I feel it physiologically in my heart. Sometimes when I feel fear, my throat closes off. When I'm in fight or flight, the physiological things shut us down. But we can always go to a thought to change that. Asking a question, what's happening in this moment? Am I in mortal danger of something happening right now? Or is my imagination and a practiced mental habit taking over and throwing me into this response? That's kind of the basics of how all of the things work in our body, this energy that we collect when we are stressed, when we are anxious, when we are in fear, when we are in traumatic response. And the simplest thing we can do is take a breath. When we think about laughter, when we think about the emotion of joy, the emotion of excitement for something, of excited anticipation of something, when we think in a judgment something good is coming, something naturally happens. We can relax. We just lean into this place automatically that says, okay, I'm shifting my perspective here. I'm changing my mind about this thing. There's something that I'm anticipating is going to be fun, or going to be delightful, or going to be surprising in a good way. It's going to bring a good feeling, a joyful feeling. So what do? What's our tools? What are the tools that we can take with us in these times of tremendous stress, when we are inundated and bombarded with stimulus to our physical senses? How many hours a day do we spend on our computers, on our phones, on our smart devices, which sometimes are not exactly that smart, because they take us into a mental habit, a spin cycle, really, a news spin cycle that we can just keep focusing on. My suggestion, if you're going to spend that amount of time on your smart devices and things are really just, you find they're getting you down, your shoulders are going up and you're tense and you're afraid and the sky is falling and the world is coming to an end right in this moment, and everything that you've ever done in your life has been a mistake. I know that's not true. I know that's not true about you. I know it's not true about me. And our work is the practice mental habit to move into another thought. So if you're on your device, I suggest Googling funny spiritual memes. As I was putting this together, I probably spent a good hour looking at some pretty ridiculous spiritual memes. I'm not going to share them in this video. I didn't want to violate copyright or anything like that. But the other thing that I did, and we're going to do this in our meditation today, very different kind of meditation. Call them dad jokes, stupid jokes, silly jokes, whatever you want to do. But find something that makes you laugh. Belly laughing. That belly laughing where you are moving your solar plexus, you're moving your core, your energetic core, and moving that energy through. Why? Because it creates endorphins. It creates all of those good neurochemicals that tell the brain everything's okay. It's safe. It's okay to relax. It's okay to rest. The dopamine and all of those things. Serotonin, melatonin. Those things that help us restore our body. So we're going to go into this meditation. And first, there's another one that you can do. And this is going to look really silly because I'm not in the room with you. And here I am in my office doing this thing. And I'm going to make myself look ridiculous in the hopes that it makes you laugh. Hopes that it helps you laugh. But it is actually a laughing meditation. And you can do this on your own. Add it to your practice. And the first thing you do is you sit tall in your chair and you get your feet on the floor. And you take a deep breath and you blow it out. Make sure you're pushing all the air out of your belly, out of the lower lungs, fully out. and make a noise. Make a silly noise if you want to. And then the second thing, on the second breath, is you take a very deep breath, filling the lungs, filling entirely into the belly bowl. And you start with a high-pitched, and you throw your head back and you laugh. And I'm going to do this. I am willing to put myself on the line here to look ridiculous in service to this service today about laughter and lightening up in our spiritual practice. Okay, so here goes. I'm going to back up a little bit. Here you go. And try not to roll over my dog. Okay, so feet on the floor, blowing out that breath, taking in a big breath, and I'm going to laugh at the top and all the way just let myself fall with that laughter, and keep doing this until you make it contagious in yourself. Okay, here we go. Now, I could keep going. And if anybody's just tuning into this video, I'm really sorry you missed the first part, because you probably are just thinking, what the heck is going on, right? So here's where we're going to go into our meditation. We are going to start by just taking a deep breath and pushing all of that air out, pushing all that stale air, imagining it coming through and cleaning up all of those toxins like a magnet, pulling them in as in your out breath as you're releasing. And releasing with the intention that this is a joyful practice. This is a balancing practice. Okay? And then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take a belly breath into that solar plexus and watch it expand. And think of it. Take the imagination of a Buddha belly, the laughing Buddha, sitting there smiling in great repose. And breathe in through the crown chakra. Opening up to that brilliant, joyful light and love of God. That ever-present presence that invented laughter, that invented light and lightness. And then breathe that air down in through the third eye, opening that wisdom center. Clearing out all the cobwebs and the stuff in there and the thoughts that don't serve at the moment. So that we're open to the idea, to the new idea, to the inspirations of Spirit. In Spiritus, taking that breath, the breath of God in, to open and relax. And we take another breath in through and we let it go down into that throat chakra. The one that opens widely when we laugh fully, when we allow ourselves to belly laugh. And then we keep taking the breath down into that heart space, that wide opening, imagine it opening to the joy and the love of Spirit, the love that Spirit has for us. The very nature of our being on this planet in this time and space of knowing that we are loved is such a joy. And when you're in that place of joy, then the gratitude begins to bubble. Saying, yes, I am loved, I am light, I am that divine expression, that individualized, unique, beautiful, perfectly imperfect human. And then breathe into the belly. The Buddha bowl, the Buddha belly, the place where we allow ourselves that big laugh. And as we are open and relaxed in this meditation, I invite you to ask yourself this question. What do you call a singing laptop? Adele. And as you take another deep breath into the belly, I ask you to ponder this question from Spirit. How do trees get online? They log in. And as you continue to allow a smile to come across your face, the simple act of smiling throughout your day in itself is a meditation to joy. It is a place we can do all day long, and no one needs to know we are meditating. We are simply changing our thought process, our thought pattern, our perspective by smiling. And as we breathe into this place of joy with a smile on our face, I ask you to ponder this question from Spirit. What did the mayonnaise say when the refrigerator door was open? Please close the door. I'm dressing. There were 2 cows grazing in a field, and one cow says to the other, do you ever worry about the mad cow disease? And the other cow says, why? Why would I care? I'm a helicopter. I invite you to take a deep breath. And smile. And notice how your body has relaxed. Notice how you have opened, how you have settled in. And for a brief time, the thoughts of the conditions and the circumstances of the world go away. It doesn't mean they stop happening or that we don't care. But when we move into a place of relaxation and openness and joy and gratitude, the solutions, what is ours to do in these circumstances and in these times, what is ours to do specifically, can come through, and can come through with ease and joy and humor. And maybe, just maybe, when we do this enough, when we allow ourselves to laugh at silly things, if we do it enough, we can be a little less hard on ourselves. And when we are less hard on ourselves, and we can see the divinity that we really are, we can indeed change the world. So I invite you with one last deep breath to consider this perspective from Spirit. That we don't take life, we can't take life too seriously, because we're never going to make it out alive. It's just the way. I bless you and I thank you for being here today and allowing me to share. Namaste. So I invite us now to move into this time of prayer, an affirmative prayer, spiritual mind treatment. Knowing that that presence of God lives in laughter. lives in ease, lives in joy. And I know that that spirit, that love and that light are right here, right now, moving in and through everyone listening today and everyone who may listen to this in the future. Knowing that the energy of this, the energy of aligning with the truth of who we are, as divine beings that are imbued with joy. It is one of the qualities of God, the gift of God that we are given, the gift of laughter, everything, of course, of God and these places that give balance to our lives. And so I know for all of us, and I affirm as I do for myself, for everyone in the universe, that there is that opening, there is that willingness to lean into taking ourselves less seriously, being serious and focused on our spiritual practice, and allowing ourselves to be the perfectly imperfect humans that we are. We are perfect because we are divine. We are individualized expressions. And so I affirm that joy. I affirm the willingness to laugh. I affirm the willingness to find the good in everything, to find the God in everything, to find those places where we really are silly. And that we allow ourselves, I affirm that we do this, that we can lean into saying, it's okay. It is okay to be silly. It is wonderful to be playful. God loves play. That's where the imagination can rule. The innocence of children who just play for the sheer curiosity of play. I affirm this. And I affirm this and know this. That we can be and are like little children, open, open, open to all of the divine guidance and good. And so feeling the joy and the gratitude bubble up in me, I know that these words have connected with that truth that already lives in that one mind. In the realm of infinite possibility, I know that these words are aligned with that which is already true. So I allow them to be so. And because they are so, there is nothing else that we need to do except to affirm the good, affirm the God, and let it be so. And we anchor this by saying together, and so it is.